happens to be this right here. Yom Teruah. I'd write that in Hebrew, other than I don't know how to spell it. Oh, it's okay. I'm going to write some other Hebrew stuff up there just to confuse all the Hebrew scholars out in the crowd. So looking at Yom Teruah, we got many different faces of it. Okay, it is a feast of layers. It really is. In many, 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 many ways. How many? It's the day of the awakening blast. Okay, so that's what it is. What's awakening? Creation. What's awakening? What we're doing in our lives. What's awakening? When new life literally comes into the world. So many things this feast represents. Although we don't stop there. No, 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 no. It's the day of trumpets. Okay? Now, for those of you out there that are Hebrew staunch, trumpets and shofars. Well, I hate to tell you, it's both of them.
Amen.
Because there were silver trumpets used to call the leaders, and then there are the shofars calling those to battle and various other things that they were called together. So it's the day of the trumpet. The day of great sounding. What great sounding? That's the voice of the Father, the sound of many waters rushing. That's a key statement. See, the Father picks key words for a purpose, and there's a reason why He says His voice was like the sound of many waters rushing. And in fact, I'm going to write that up in the board and get to that in a little bit. It's the day of sounding. The biggest trumpet you have in your life is contained in your face. You can use it. Okay? Everybody can. Regardless of age. Regardless if you're young, you can grab that mic and say, I'm getting mikvah because I accepted Yeshua as my Messiah. Well, hallelujah. There you go. This trumpet is equally as powerful in the youth as it is in the old. It's Rosh Chodesh. It's the head of the month. Not just any month. We're talking Tishrei 1. Alright, so this is the 7th month. The month of completion. It's the perfecting month. It is Rosh Hashanah. Okay? Now, this is Jewish custom and tradition we're getting in now. But, however you say it, in Genesis 1:1, the Father created the heavens and the earth. Now, it would sort of make sense that a feast that deals with creation, awakening, bringing new life, well, you know, that sort of may line up as a good time to start the year. Lashana Tovah. A good year, a blessing of a good year to all of us. Alright, so it's okay. We got to pull back. You know, some traditions are bad. If you look at the Messiah and all the miracles that He did, every one of them was flying in the face of a man-made tradition. But why were those traditions put into place? Well, they weren't there for good reasons. So He had to cut them out. But He never said that Yom Teruah was not Rosh Hashanah. And it was going on even then. And, you know, there were problems with the calendar even in Yeshua's day. But you know what? He never engaged in them. Nowhere in the New Testament, in the New Covenant, if you will, are you going to find Him ever go, well, no, Passover is not that day. Passover is actually this day. No, He never did that. He fulfilled both at the same time. How about you like that? How about them apples covered in honey? So I got a really funny story that happened this week. I'm going to make you work, Miss Cindy. I know
that's fun.
So I had a really funny story this week, and it's really going to tie into Yom Teruah and what I think the Father's really been speaking into my heart to bring to you guys. And so I've got this friend of mine at work, and his name is Mr. Garland. He served 25 years in the Army of the United States of America. And it's kind of funny. Him and I have become fast friends. And he's a Freemason. Messianic believer / Jew thing. And so you would think we'd be polar opposites. He's pro-American Army. Yeah, you know, I'm all for it. Shoot some arrows, whatever. It's okay. But whatever, however it's happened, we've become really fast friends. And one of the funny things, he likes to push the envelope on everything. And I do, but, you know, I told him, you're just more blatant about it. See, I'm as gentle as the lamb, but I am as wise as the serpent in the field. I'm the spider on the wall, and you, well, you're the bull just charging through the field. And that's just basically how it is. So the inmates, it's so funny. They always want to know who you are, what you're doing there, because they want something from you. Mr. Head, Mr. Head. They want to hear everything from everybody. They want to know if you're the gossip connector to move them through the prison. And so this inmate, you know, we're out on the walk. That's what they call the area in between the pods, the buildings. And this inmate walks up to Mr. Garland and he goes, "What do you do?" He said, "Who are you?" And Mr. Garland goes, "Well, who are you?" And he's taken back and he's like, "Well, what do you do?" And Mr. Garland looked over at him and he goes, "Well, what do you do?" And then he was just befuddled and he just sort of walked away from that point. He didn't know what to think about this crazy teacher. And every time I tell it, it's just so funny. But the Father does it to us. Because we come up to him, "Well, what's your name?" And he's like, "Well, what's your name? Who are you?" Okay? He does the same thing back at us. And so I'm going to put 3 Hebrew words up on the board, and we're going to talk about them a little bit in connection to Yom Teruah, and in connection specifically with awakening. That's what I really think the Father is showing me this year. He just didn't call us to be awake for no reason, okay? Not to just sit here and dwindle away. He didn't call us to be awake to bicker about the calendar. He didn't call us to be awake so we could argue about whether we should cook food or not on the Sabbath. That is not what He did. That is not why He called us to be awake. He called us to be awake to be something else. Now, you're on my Hebrew. Alright, we got a word right there. And I'll be nice and I'll put one foot under there for you. And then we got another one. We got this one right here. Now we should start to see a pattern between these 2 words. And we got another one. So we have got 3 Hebrew words here. And if you notice, they've all got something in connection, and it happens to do with those 2 letters right there. The Sheen and the Mem. So let's talk about the Great Awakening. We've got a Great Awakening of resurrection, but the first resurrection was not when Yeshua called out the dead. There was another resurrection that took place first, and well, that sort of happened all the way back in Genesis. Not all the way back in Genesis, but Genesis 1:1. There was a great awakening at that time, a great resurrection. It says, "In the beginning, Elohim created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of Elohim moved upon the face of the waters. And Elohim said," this is crucial, "Let there be light." We all know this. There's one verse that everybody knows. It's John 3:16 and Genesis 1. And everybody knows it. And Elohim said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And Elohim saw the light, and that it was good. Elohim divided the light from the darkness, and He called the light day, and He called darkness night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. Now, we got some crucial concepts going on here with awakening. So if we read this in English, And we look at it just specifically from an English mindset, a Western Greek mindset. Yes, we can see that he did some creating here. We know that he may have made and formed the light. But the Hebrew there is really digging into some big stuff. And in particular, he says, and Elohim said, let there be light. He was literally, Shem, naming the light. He gave light its name. And then when he gave it its name, it was then separating light from darkness. Literally, darkness cannot exist where light is. If we turn on those sets of lights, and we get flashlights, and we throw open the windows back there, darkness will flee from this room. It will. Because it cannot exist in the same place. It is separated. Now, see, the beautiful thing about Hebrew is that we can get a picture through these letters, but we got to understand that these letters come from the time when Israel went into captivity into Babylon, and then they took up the Aramaic writing style after that, and it just sort of hung through. It was a little different. It sort of changed throughout the years, eventually into this. But there was a Proto-Canaanite form beforehand, and it's much like ancient Egyptian, where each letter has a picture. And so let's get into Shem and see what the picture is. So we have the Sheen, which a long time ago would have looked something like this. And then the Mem would have looked something like this. So literally, Hebrew is so beautiful that you break down the letters and it forms a picture, a name. When he named light, the Sheen is a tooth. You can see how when it's flipped upside down and curved, it becomes what we see now. But it was literally a tooth, a pictograph of a tooth, because it's a devourer. It's a separator. And what does it separate in a name? Well, it separates from water. And that's what Mem is. It represents water. That's why the Hebrew word for a mother is Imah. Okay? Why? Because flowing water comes from her body during childbirth and many other times. Okay? So we have a dividing of waters. Our bodies are mostly made up of water. So when your parents in their infinite wisdom gave you that name, that was what separated you from another strand of water, from another person. It is unique to you. It was your awakening moment. This is a big deal in the Jewish culture, especially for men. We've got, at an 8th day, the man is given his name because that is what awakens him. Okay? At that point, he's awakened, and he is placed into the covenant physically through the circumcision aspect. And that's a great awakening. You've been called. Your parents, in their infinite wisdom, gave you a name. Just imagine if you didn't have a name. We'd all be talking, and we'd be like, and there was that, gosh, his name escapes me. He's just some random guy. I don't even know. He doesn't even have a name. If you didn't have a name, how would you be separated from any other entity? So, English leaves us lacking. Hebrew brings us clarity. And literally, light was awoken. That is why in Yom Teruah, Genesis, these beginning verses are read. It's awakening. So you're separated by your name. The Father blessed your parents with the wisdom to name you what you have been. Have you ever thought about why the Father wants you to place His name upon you? Because if you really think about what Shem is, a separation, He's literally wanting to separate you out from the nations. And He's wanting His name to be upon you because when He looks at you, He wants to see Himself because He is worthy to be seen. We are not worthy to be seen. And our actions prove that day by day by day. But the concept even evolves and goes further, even to the word that we give to peace, shalom, okay? So it's encased in the idea of a devouring water with a hand up from the Father that nails it down. So peace divides from chaos. Okay? That's the concept here. How does peace happen? Hand up from the Father, nailed down through Messiah. Okay? That is peace. That is shalom. And we got that same concept. Here we go. Shema. Hear and do. In Hebrew, it doesn't just... When we read English and it says, "Hear, O Israel," we're like, okay, I'm listening. It's more than just hearing. There is an action that takes place, and it's broken into the word itself because we have a devourer of waters and wind. So literally to Shema requires an action because you must separate the wind from the water. Do me a favor. Jump in a pool, and it doesn't have to be deep, 3 feet. And just go to the bottom and have somebody go, "Get up! You can't breathe down there!" They're going to be like, they're not going to understand you. Okay? It's just that simple because they're encased in water. Now, if they come out of the water and separate themselves and join in with the wind, okay, now they can hear what you're saying. Now, sometimes, try it in a bathtub with someone that you trust. Put your head down, go, "Okay, I'm in." And then somebody can be like, "You need to wash yourself. You be stinking." And then you can be like, you'll hear, but it's muddled, right? Depending how much water you stuff in your ears is going to be the level of which you hear. If you're not hearing the Father, then I promise you, in just another night, you have the prime opportunity to awaken yourself. You have the opportunity to do that because He promises that He will meet with us. He promises it.
Amen.
And this is a feast of nothing but awakening. All right. So it literally takes an action to keep yourself pure, to awaken others. That's our call, guys. That's it. Why are you keeping the Torah? And even keeping the Torah is sort of a muddy realm. Because there's a lot of it that requires us to be in the land. How many of you guys have, got up on Shavuot or Tabernacles and like, "Hey, honey, I'm going to hop on that airplane trip and we're going to go all over to Israel"? How many of you guys have done that? Ooh. I'm just saying, there's 3 times a year where the males, the representatives of their house, whether male or female, are to go to the land and put themselves out there just like Job was. Okay? When Job went back to the land, he was probably there, Tabernacle, Shavuot, Passover, and he was there showing himself. And then, we give Satan too much credit. Okay? We just do.
Amen.
Because he's not omniscient.
That's right.
When the Father was there, and then Satan happens to pop on in, he's like, "So where have you been?" "Well, I've been to and fro, here and there." Okay? Here and there, to and fro, because he can't be in one place all the time. So, don't look to Satan for your problems. Look inside yourself. Okay? And then Yahweh was like, "Look at my servant Job." And he's like, "Oh, yeah, Job, yeah, I've seen him. You've got your hand upon him. You put your name upon him. So remove your hand from him, and he'll surely, curse you." Well, and then we go through the whole story of Job. But I'm not really here to talk about Job. I'm more to talk about Isaiah. Isaiah is a prophet specifically to a nation of people. What nation of people is that? Israel. Okay. Huh? Well, he existed. He was definitely, almost, if you read every chapter of Isaiah, he does go a little bit into Judah. And there's times where he goes up there and he's like, "Hey, Hezekiah, why did you let the Babylonians see everything in the temple?" He's like, "Because I didn't want them to invade." And he's like, "Okay, well, they're not going to invade. However, everything in this stronghold will go over to them." So he was a prophet unto Judah in one sense, he would go to Hezekiah probably whenever he happened to be around there, but he spent a tremendous amount of time in Israel. And really a lot of condemnation. One group in particular, Ephraim. Okay? So if we believe we're the gathering of the exiles, if you believe that you have been awakened into the acknowledgement that you are Yisrael, then Isaiah is talking to you. And one of the great verses that we read a lot in Yom Teruah happens to be Isaiah 27, 12 through 13. So let's start there. In that day, Yahweh will thresh from the flowing Euphrates to the Wadi of Mitzrayim. But he doesn't stop there, and he says, and you, O Israelites, will be gathered up one by one. And in that day a great trumpet will sound. Those who were perishing in Assyria, and those who were exiled in Mitzrayim, the house of bondage, will come and worship Yahweh on the holy mountain in Jerusalem. So this is something future. This is prophetic. This is one of those great trumpet moments. So in that day, the day of the Lord, when Yeshua returns, He will do the threshing. Now this is a concept. We serve an agricultural God, okay? He put us into a garden. He didn't put us into a megalopolis. There's things to learn in a garden that you're not going to learn in the big city. I'm just saying. So He sticks us there so we can learn one thing in particular. The ability to grow, the ability to harvest, the ability to cook, how to eat when things are rotten, when things are not, what causes things to rise, what causes them not to. These are things He wants us to learn. For what purpose? Because one day He's going to thresh us. He will separate the wheat from the chaff. Okay? And that's what He's doing at this point. And that day, when He comes back, when the great trumpet, the sound of many waters rushing, when the name is blown and He descends, then He's going to start to thresh out men. In particular, the household of Israel first. Because that's where judgment begins. Woe unto us. That leads into Isaiah 28. This is where I'm really going to spend some time right in here in Isaiah 28. Now, I'm reading out of the NIV, and those of you who have heard me teach before, I really like the KJV. And not for any reason in particular other than it was one of the primary English translations. It was really anti-Catholic in its translation mode. So I enjoy that one. But the NIV, boy, they've got a very great translation of Isaiah 28. So that's what I'm going to mainly read out of. If you believe that you are awakened, if you believe you are Yisrael, if you believe that you have been called and grafted in through the tribe of Ephraim, then listen closely, because this deals with you. Woe to Ephraim. Woe to that wreath, the pride of Ephraim's drunkards, to the fading flower, his glorious beauty set on the head of a fertile valley, to that city, the pride of those laid low by wine. See, Yahweh has one who is powerful and mighty, like a hailstorm and a destructive wind, like a driving rain and a flooding downpour. He will throw it forcefully to the ground. The wreath, the pride of Ephraim's drunkards, will be trampled underfoot. That fading flower, his glorious beauty set on the head of a fertile valley, will be like a fig right before harvest. As soon as someone sees it and takes it in his hand, he swallows it. All right, so we got a lot of drinking, right? Is this here? So the crown of pride. Ephraim is proud. Ephraim is riddled with pride, and I am probably, my wife would say, the chief among them. I am very proud. And it is a character flaw that will probably be one until I bring my last breath into my lungs. It just is a problem of mine. Well, the crown of pride, the drunkards of Ephraim will be trampled underfoot. The glorious beauty's fading flower, which is the head of the Verdant valley, like the first fruits. So we've got this drunkenness idea, this mentality that Ephraim is a drunkard, and the reason why they're drunk is their pride. Their pride gets in their way. And see, when Jeroboam separated himself from Judah, when the prophet stepped in front of him and tore his cloak, he said, and he was saying things to him as he handed him each piece of that cloak. And he said, if you will keep Yahweh's Torah, if you will send your men to Jerusalem at the appointed times, and if you will take your sacrifices to my holy land, your reign will be blessed. Okay? But in Ephraim's pride, we've got 10 of the tribes. So we're not going to fulfill this, and we are going to become drunk with our own self-indulgence. We're now going to build an altar over here, and it's going to mimic what's going on over here, and it's going to be really great, and all of our men are going to come here, and we're going to open up trade to the surrounding nations more than we are with our brother Judah. Okay? And so all of this is coming back full circle. Well, Ephraim was awakened for a purpose, and it wasn't to be self-indulgent. Look at America, guys. Look where we live. Look when Ephraim originally went into captivity and hasn't returned. Look where they went. They went to the places of self-indulgence. That's where they went to. That's where their wanderings have taken them. So, let's keep going on. Because now we get another prophecy. In that day, what day is that? Isaiah 28, 5 through 6. That's the day of the Lord again, the great sounding. In that day, Yahweh Almighty will be a glorious crown, a beautiful wreath for the remnant of His people. He will be a spirit of justice to him who sits in judgment, a source of strength to those who turn back the battle at the gate. Again, the Father is calling His people to awaken this, because Ephraim's primary goal is to be the crown. It's to be the ruler, okay, not to subjugate its brother, but it's to carry the crown of the Messiah. That is Ephraim's purpose. Judah's purpose is the scepter. It is the lawgiver. Okay? I'm going to propose something. Right in a Great Awakening. Why don't we let Judah be the lawbearer? But let's just try it. We tried everything else. You know? And if they're wrong, then Yahweh's going to deal with them. Okay? But if we keep trying to take the role that's not ours, you know, don't be surprised if things don't get better. Don't be surprised if your kids don't want to be a part of the Messianic movement. Don't be surprised if the numbers start to dwindle and people get bogged down in legalism. Because, guys, it's not our role. We are to carry the Messiah to where? To those who turn back the battle at the gate. For weeks now, the Father has just constantly put this idea in my mind of the gate. That is one of Ephraim's roles. We're to be at the gate. We're looking out going, hey, they're coming, and we need to stand our ground here. Judah, come up with us. Meet us at the gate to engage our enemies, or if the enemy is among us, we remove them from the congregation and put them to the gate and get on out. We don't need you. Okay? The enemy within and the enemy without, the battle is fought at the gate. And He will be our strength to do that. How? By placing His name upon us? Perhaps? By dividing and separating us out? Alright, so this is some good stuff going on here. Well, you know, knowing Ephraim how we are, we got to go on to verse 7. And these also stagger from wine and reel from beer. Again, the self-indulgence. Priests and prophets stagger from beer and are befuddled with wine. They reel from beer. They stagger when seeing visions. They stumble when rendering decisions. All the tables are covered with vomit, and there is not a spot without filth. Okay? So this is what's going on in Ephraim when their rulers decided at that time to implement these things. And then when you go on, Yahweh asks us a question. Who is it He is trying to teach? Who? He's asking Ephraim, who is it you're trying to teach? Guys, who are we trying to teach? Are we constantly going to keep teaching ourselves? Over and over and over and over and over. It's just like a never-ending cycle. Why? That's not what it's meant to be. The feasts are meant to be cyclical because for those that are coming in can hop in and go, oh, the ride's starting again. And then as it just constantly moves, we're not supposed to keep beating the dead horse over and over again because, well, he asks again, to whom is he explaining his message? To whom? To children weaned from their milk? To those just taken from the breast? So he's asking the question. He's not telling us that these are who we're speaking to. He's asking us, is this who you're talking to? Because you're acting like a little baby, okay, that's just taking milk from the breast. Let's turn it into a statement, because that's sort of what Ephraim's doing. And so, because for it is do and do, precept upon precept, precept upon precept, a little here, a little there. So, when Ephraim did this, it was like, we're going to create a system that mimics what's going on over here. That was the sin of Ephraim's ruler, Jeroboam. And it just continued from there the entire time. We're not to mimic God's kingdom. We're to become part of it and work and graft inside of it. That is what we are supposed to do. That is why He is calling your name, that uniqueness that is you. He's calling and separating you out. And what better time to reawaken inside yourself the mission that you were put here for. You were not put here to argue about whether Passover is this day or that day. You were not sent here to argue about whether somebody can cook a meal in their house or not. Because let me tell you something, my wife cooks for me every day of the week. Every day without fail. So why can I not drag my bottom out of bed on Sabbath? And if she wants an omelet or pancakes or a 3-course meal, why can I not make it for her?
Hallelujah.
It is not for you to judge how I keep the Sabbath. It is not your place. Okay? It's just not. But it became do and do. Well, we're going to build the altar here. We're going to offer the sacrifices here. Do and do. Precept upon precept. Bring your tithes and offerings to us. Don't bring them over to here. And then rule upon rule. And until eventually, we go off into captivity. And then it says, but the Father gives us a little bit of hope after this. But He gives us a hope prophetically that we're going to do the same thing over again. Okay? Very well then, He says, with foreign lips and strange tongues, Elohim will speak to His people, to whom He said, this is the resting place. Let the weary rest. What did Yeshua say? All you who are weary and heavy laden, come to me and rest. Rest. And He says to you, He's not saying to Judah here, He's saying to you, Ephraim, you who I said, through you were going to say that this is the resting place. When you're weary west, to you, this is the place of repose. But they would not listen. Who is they? They, the ones who are carrying the message. We won't listen to our own message. So then the word of Yahweh to them will become do and do. Do and do, rule on rule, precept upon precept, a little here, a little there, so that they will go, fall backward, be injured, snared, and captured. Therefore hear the word of Yahweh, you scoffers who rule this people in Jerusalem. He's revealing Himself to us in the same way that got us out of them in the first place. Because He can turn our negativity into greatness. And He's going to prove it. But He's going to reveal Himself unless we get the picture as do and rule on rule, and we're just going to scatter and we're going to run back and forth here, and then we're going to run over here, and all the time we're not being awakened and being separated out. Guys, I look at my children and I wonder of the future. I want them to have strong wives to marry. I want them to walk in the uprightness of the Messiah. And I'm not playing games anymore. I'm not choosing sides. I'm not choosing factions. You can do as you wish. But as for me and my house, I will place the name of Yahweh in it. Okay? When I will serve the Lord, is you will put His name into your house. And then you will be separated out. As the water is separated out. You will Shema and hear. You'll hear the wind. Alright, so let's go on. So, as we do these things, as we bicker upon calendar issues, as we bicker upon, what the names are, is it Yahuwah, is it Yahweh, is it Yahweh, is it Jehovah Jireh, whatever it is, whatever we bring ourselves, what are we not doing? We're not letting the initial seed grow to even see if it's a fruit that's worthy to eat or not. So let's skip ahead a little bit into Isaiah. Let's go to verse 23. Because through all this doing and rules upon rules and a little bit here and a little bit there, well, he gets us to verse 23. And this is a big deal. Because he says, listen and shema, perhaps my voice. Pay attention and shema, what I say. So he's asking us a question again. When a farmer plows for planting, does he plow continually? So now I'm going to get you guys involved. We have an agricultural Elohim. So how many of you guys live on a farm or understand the process? So what's the question he's asking here? Who would like to answer this? Does a farmer plow forever? No. Why?
There's a season for plowing and preparing the soil.
Okay, so there's a season for plowing, right? There's a season and a time for that.
Oh, well.
There went my covenant fly. There's a season for it. Okay? There's a time to bust up the ground. It's to plow. You can plant a seed in the hard ground. You just sort of dig it up, drop the seed in there, and cover it back up. But it's going to be choked. It's going to be choked by the ground because it needs to be turned, and the air needs to come out. The insects that live in the ground need to be able to move more freely so they can aerate. Okay? It makes it easier to pull the weeds out. These are the reasons why a farmer will plow. But he's asking us, do we plow continually? Does he keep on breaking up and harrowing the soil over and over? When he's leveled the surface, does he not sow caraway and scatter cumin? So now he's asking us, does he plant? So, next step, once you've plowed your field, what is it that we do? We plant, right? We sow the seeds. So some are sown in, where you got to sort of dig it out a little bit, place the seeds, cover it up. Some are just scattered about because they're very similar to a grass. Cumin is a type of grass. So it's just sort of scattered about and it will take root. Okay? So he's telling us these things for a reason. Then he goes on and says, does he not plant wheat in its place, barley in its plot, spelt in its field? His Elohim instructs him and teaches him the right way. Okay, so he's telling us what to do, where to plant the fields, how we're to reap a harvest. Guys, let's keep going. Caraway is not threshed with a sledge, nor is a cartwheel rolled over cumin. Caraway is beaten out with a rod and cumin with a stick. Grain must be ground to make bread, so one does not go on threshing it forever. Okay? We can't thresh it forever. Why? Because you're never going to get to eat the produce of the field. And if you just continually beat the ground up and you don't allow the seed to take hold, then you won't ever know if the fruit's good or bad. It's just that simple. It is. The Father makes it so easy for us to understand. He's like, look, if you celebrate the feast like this 15 years in a row and the fruit's not good, well, maybe you should change it up. Plant a different field. See if it springs up a little different. But you can't go one way this time, one way this time, one way this time, one way this time. Or, are you going to reckon the Sabbath based on the seventh day? Or are you going to reckon the Sabbath based on the phase of the moon? Or are you going to reckon the Sabbath based on how the seasons are progressing? Why don't you just pick one and do it? And then eat the fruit and go, oh, that doesn't taste very good. Wow, it's really hard to get Tuesday off of work, Thursday off of work, Saturday off of work, Sunday off of work. It's a little bit easier to get Saturday over and over and over again. Well, because it's a cyclical thing. So the fruit's good. So why don't you eat it? It's just that simple. Though he drives the wheels of his threshing cart over it, so where you've planted. So even though you drive the cart over it to gather it, his horses don't do the grinding. Okay? So, if you take such a dogmatic approach that you're not going to buy and sell on the Sabbath. Okay? Well, don't have your next door neighbor be like, I forgot to turn on my radio. I really want to listen to talk radio today. Can you come on over here and turn that on for me? There's a lot of Jewish people that do that. I've actually watched a documentary where this lady got up there and she's like, well, it just so happened to be the Sabbath day. I'm not getting a good northern accent, but so it was a Sabbath day, and they came over, and I got my Goyim friend to come over and turn my radio on for me. Okay, that's getting your horse to do the work. Okay, because we are to be the rulers of the nations. But when you get your horse to come over and do the work for you, you're just smashing it again. You're not getting the fruit of it. I promise you that if that is your goal, I remember all these years at Lamb where we would order pizza on Yom Kippur.
Yeah.
I don't know how to say this anymore, but you're getting your horse to do your work. Hey, we're all fasting, but then let's place our order an hour before the sun goes down so our horses can grind the field. What are you showing the nations? What are you showing? Okay, ask yourself the question. So he drives the wheels of the threshing cart over it. His horses do not grind it. All this also comes from Yahweh Almighty. He does the same thing with us. He will take his cart over us, and he will gather us, and he will thresh us, and he will grow us, and he will taste of the fruit, because he is wonderful in counsel, and he is magnificent in wisdom. And may his name be upon us in Yom Teruah. Hallelujah.